With the Summer Olympics going on in France, I figured I may as well look at Super Spike V-Ball on the NES. Truthfully, I kinda picked this game before I even realized it was Olympics time, but it was relevant anyway, so If you watched my previous review, you might recall that this game was one of the first games I owned on the NES, as it came with Nintendo World Cup Soccer as the packing game on my NES my mom had purchased. I've already reviewed World Cup Soccer, so yeah, volleyball time. Truth be told, there's not a ton on offer here, but what does exist does the job well. It's just standard 2-on-2 beach volleyball, with a slight twist. You can pulverize your opponents with the titular Super Spikes. I'll get to that shortly. First off, you get a very plain menu with quite a few options. This game is 4-score compatible, so if you have 3 other people to play it with, it can be one heck of a time. Once you choose the players, you can choose between Exercise, American Circuit, or World Tour. Think of the American route as the moderate difficulty, and the World Tour as the challenging difficulty. Exercise is just a single game exhibition match, and is great if you want to practice using the various teams. The American Tournament is a 5-game romp through different cities, and the World Tour has you going up against 7 different teams. After you choose the mode, you can alter a few options, along with pick one of 4 teams and a state that you are based out of, which is only used during the scoring announcements. As for the teams, each one has different stats, which aren't exactly shown to you but become apparent when you actually play as them. George and Murphy are your standard, well-rounded team, and are a great start if you haven't gotten your feet sandy yet. Al and John are your buffed-up beefcakes, and are as slow as frozen molasses, but have the highest power rating, able to spike and block with ease. Billy and Jimmy, that's right, the Double Dragons, appear here, and they have the best defensive stats with good speed, but surprisingly the lowest power rating. And finally, Ed and Michael are the team I used to play the most as a kid, as they are the fastest of the crew with okay defense and power. Playing the game nowadays, I found that Ed and Michael aren't the best crew, and explains why I've struggled a little bit in the World Tournament, but it's possible to clear each challenge with each team if you play the ball right. Anyway, the volleyball action itself is, as I said, standard stuff. Sure, it's fast-paced due to the arcade feel, but you have the standard bumps, sets, and spikes available, along with defensive blocks and dives in an attempt to save the ball. You have 2 different scoring modes, the normal method in which you only score a point if you are serving, and a way that you score regardless on who served. But what sets it apart is the super spiking. By leaping towards the ball with B, you can keep pressing B until your character's hands start to glow. Hitting the ball with A with glowing hands will result in a super spike, a massively powered blast that will knock an opponent to the ground if they hit the ball. Many times, even if the other team can make the save, the ball will fly off the screen and out of bounds, giving a guaranteed point. This occurs more frequently against the earlier teams, with late tournament teams having the strength to survive these inhuman blasts of power. Of course, the opposing team can also launch these super spikes at you. You can block spikes by pressing B close to the net, and again, mashing B before contact will result in glowing hands, allowing you to potentially block even super spikes. Even so, blocking is a very risky maneuver to perform in this game. If you block the spike, it may roll out of bounds, resulting in the opponents scoring or taking control of the ball. Plus, if you can't block the super spike, you might be pushed to the ground, and your teammate may not be able to save the ball quick enough. I've always found that the blocking just isn't worth it. If you are playing solo, the game does a great job at swapping characters to ensure that you have the best possible shot available. Normally, you'll be the one bumping and then spiking, with the AI teammate simply setting the ball to you. In addition to this, the AI teammate will move their character so that the court is evenly covered, which is pretty awesome, and reduces any sort of open zone for the opponent. The game looks good overall, but there are a few nitpicky things I wanted to mention. One, there's not a lot of animation for the characters on the screen. I guess it's to be expected for a game released in '88, but considering that the moves are, for the most part, a single frame or two, I don't know, I just feel like there could have been a bit more. Secondly, although in the American Circuit you battle in 5 different locations, in the World Cup you primarily battle in one, based in Hawaii. Again, I get it. It's a tournament where everyone was invited, but I think I would have preferred checking out various areas of the world instead of just the same backdrop. Sure, when you go up against the last two teams, the US Navy and the USSR, the location finally changes, but you have to get through Brazil first, and these guys don't mess around. As a kid and as an adult, I've always struggled against Brazil no matter which team I chose, and because of that, I didn't even get past them for this video. And of course, there is plenty of flicker to be seen. Thankfully, it doesn't get in the way of being able to hit the ball, and normally it occurs when a super spike hits someone. The music itself is pretty good. It does tend to repeat frequently, but it's catchy and upbeat, and sets the mood perfectly. I especially love the song that plays during your match with Brazil, which is good since you'll probably be listening to it a lot. It's almost a bit more dramatic than it needs to be, but due to the difficulty of the match itself, it just fits. There may not be a lot of volleyball titles on the NES, but Super Spike V-Ball is probably the best of that small handful. Maybe it's just nostalgia speaking, but it's just a solid game that has some fantastic arcade gameplay, great music, and potential to give you and 3 friends an excellent contest. Even if you aren't a fan of the sport, super spiking the ball against a friend will offer some smug satisfaction. Final score? 6 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.